Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today. With conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen, follow, and subscribe on social media, Dear Business Coach pages and groups, Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. And don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Okay. Yay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, and Tom Whalen, thank you for coming to the Dear Business Coach podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm excited for this. This is cool.
Awesome. Well, so keep me on track because, as we start talking, you have some new things to unveil today. So this is exciting for me too. Well, for starters, I did have a chance to learn a little bit about you in our last conversation. What I know about you is that you're a sales leader, and that I know that you have been an inside sales team leader with McKesson. But will you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So, Tom Whalen. I've been inside sales, for my whole career. The last, I hate to admit it, but since 2000, I've been leading teams. All for pretty big companies, Hewlett-Packard, American Express, and the last 15, McKesson. And so it's been a great journey, I love being there with the team and early talent, a lot of that, and helping grow and develop them, and and hitting sales targets. So it's been exciting.
Okay, well, you know what? There are a couple of ways we could start this interview. And so I want to be careful not to miss an opportunity while we're talking. I always tell folks that when I'm listening to a podcast, I like to put a face to the voice. And can you tell us how people can see you, follow you, or connect with you as we're listening?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, probably more than I should be. That's probably the primary place to find me. Is just on Tom Whalen on LinkedIn at LinkedIn. So I'm on there, and you can, that's probably the best place to connect to me or to find me.
Awesome. So, and that's the spelling I have is TOMWHALEN.
That's
like
it.
Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, so with what I learned about you first is your passion for developing. You mentioned something to me that struck my fancy, if you will, the first time we spoke. That you say that you could look at your inside sales team and developing folks earlier in their career as a place where, as a team leader, you might experience turnover, right? But actually what's happening, or that I got out of our first conversation, is that there are people that join your team and find themselves in inside sales where this is a building block for them, and you enjoy recruiting folks and being a part of that building and learning process for them. And did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, you definitely did. You definitely did. So yeah, we do. Folks come typically into inside sales, and usually their early talent is their first job, maybe out of school, or maybe they've tried selling other things, insurance or something, and they end up finding their way to us. We also have a lot of referrals and things, and we do have several folks that stay with us for years and years. We have a couple of folks on the team that I don't know, 15, 16, 17-year tenure. But then we also have a lot of folks that'll come in, 3-4 years and 2 years sometimes, and they'll go out into other roles. And it's kind of pretty cool, at least from my perspective, seeing them kind of grow and develop and that sort of thing. And I do like, taking folks that are brand new and then showing them kind of the way. Because I've done it not that taking on folks' experience is a bad thing at all, 'cause it's not. Although you sometimes do get the, well, my old company did this way. This is how we do it. This is how we do it, which is not a, the breaks and habits. Maybe sometimes you do that, but I do like kind of showing folks to how to be successful and learn the craft. And I've been, I developed a little bit of a sales course that I've been doing for probably about the better part of 20 years. And so that helps them get the, uh, at least the whole team has like a common language and, how to basically how to sell. Cause I found early in my sales career, my first job out of school, I was gonna be, and this is gonna sound like, I don't know, I'm sure those roles exist somewhere, but I was gonna work in radio. That was my thing. And
Mhm.
so uh, the job that the company that hired me said that I could be on the radio if I was to sell advertising, which I had never done any of that before. And the guy who hired me gave me like one sheet and said, "Here's kind of how you do it." And we sat down for like 30 minutes and go out and get them. And I, despite despite my lack of training, I did sell a couple of things, but not enough to make a living for sure. And so you know, my thing was, whenever if I was going to stay in sales, which I ultimately did, um, and I ever came to a position I wanted, of leadership, I wanted to make sure that every rep that walked in the door had a template of how to sell and how to do it. And that's kind of what I've been doing this whole time, and I do enjoy doing it.
Okay, well, and that does come through, and I get to ask you here in a little bit about your love of teaching and what you're doing with that now. And so, what's interesting about what you said there is you said to yourself, if I become a leader, I want to make sure that my team has this template. So while you were in a position where you found yourself in a position where you have to sell something to get to another point, if to get something else that you want, right, to be on the radio, you have to you were offered that opportunity
Yeah.
with the caveat that you could sell advertising. And then you said to yourself, if I'm a leader, when I'm a leader, dot dot dot. Did you know that when you were getting started?
I'll be honest with you. No, no, I didn't. Because once I left radio, I didn't do it very long, and I was like, this is not. I did it for maybe 4 or 5 months. I had gotten a job at selling wire at a wire company, and you talk about selling commodities. Wire is definitely a commodity. And so there, when I interviewed, and the guy who interviewed me, had said, you're selling advertising. And I said, yeah. So you're doing well. And I'm like, no. And he said, I said, I'll tell you this. I'll give you 110%, but what I need is just, just train me on the product, just give me a way to help me, like help train me, cause I didn't get any
Mm.
training. And they said, okay, yeah, I'll do. They did offer that, which that was my big negotiating thing. I'll sell for you, but you have to train me. So that was my big negotiating chip. And they did, and trained me on the products and how to sell, and I did well there, and so and at that point I had made the decision to say, if I ever get into a leadership role or something, I want to make sure folks that come in the door, they don't have to ask for it, they just get it. And even my organization today, very few of them are like, hey, teach me how to do it. They get it anyway. They get it whether they like it or not. I mean, they like the course. I think they do. But and the team's been successful. At least, I'm guessing last 15 years we've exceeded our targets. And I know when I was with Hewlett Packard, I think we misplanned the first year I got there, but made it every year since. And so we've had some good success. And I think a lot of it isn't. I think as a sales professional, you need to have that growth mindset. You have to you know, keep getting better, keep looking to get better, whether that's on product training or sales technique or technology, especially technology today, as I struggled to get on the Zoom this morning. You have to be up on that stuff and constantly evolving and getting better, because, the markets are changing and things are moving faster. And, quite frankly, your competition is getting better. And so you have to evolve with that. And so if you don't have a growth mindset, or investing in yourself to get better, you're not going to be successful for the long term. And I say, the company I work with now, McKesson, we do a great job of, education and continuing education and things like that. I also believe as an individual, you have to do your own homework too. And then as a leader, I think it's important to provide those opportunities, even when outside what the company is doing, to make sure that our sales team keep getting better. And I always tell folks when I interview them and I hire, I said, you're going to have to be successful in this sales job or any for that matter, you have to have that mindset of continuing to improve. I'm not saying you have to work a 8, 9, 10-hour day and then start reading, crazy books and then, until you go to sleep. You don't have to do that at all. But even things like, if you're waiting in line, I don't know, somewhere and you decide to, DMV, you maybe put it over your phone and maybe you're sifting through an article or, maybe looking up the competition, seeing what they do, or looking at our website, okay, learning new stuff, just that constant sort of, investment in yourself and in your sales education, I think is critical to be successful. I honestly believe that.
Well, absolutely. And so you seem to have developed this for yourself. I'm curious, do you have influences or did you have influences starting in your career that authors or people in your personal life that kind of instilled this for you?
That's a great question. I would say what's funny is I'll read something like, oh my God, this is the best. And then I'll start Googling and, listen to podcasts and things. And then I sort of jump around a lot. But I would say probably one thing early on, I had wrestled in high school and college, and there was Dan Gable from University of Iowa. Again, he is a Olympic champ and wrestling coach for the university. He's retired now, and just speaking and stuff. But I always saw him as kind of like, while I've met him a few times, he doesn't know me, but I saw him as kind of a mentor or sort of a role model. Probably role model is probably a better way. And his thing was, is preparation, and what is, and if you keep preparing yourself and if you keep working at it, if you work hard enough, you're going to get better. And I've sort of took that, what he would do with wrestling and sort of put that towards my selling career early on. I didn't want to be in sales at all. Like when I got out of school, I wanted to be in radio. And so when I got that job selling wire, I wasn't thrilled with it, but I had to pay the bills. And so I wasn't happy to be there. I'd come in a little bit late, maybe leave a little bit early and that kind of thing. And I remember one of our, we had two owners. I reported to one, but this is the owner from the other part of the business, more the production kind of owner. And he kind of pulled me aside one day in the break room and he had said to me, he's like, hey, listen, do you want to do this job? And I was like, no, I do. And he's like, well, kind of act like you want to do it because you don't look like you do. And that was way early. I mean, I was maybe there maybe 2 weeks. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be here. I should get good at it. And so that's when I said, okay, well, how do I going to get good at it? Let me do what Gable would do. And that's what I started doing. I started just thinking, okay, well, I'm fortunate in sales that, unfortunately I didn't have a great base salary, but fortunate enough that my commissions were uncapped. And so I said, okay, well, I can make money if I learn more. And so let me try doing that. And so I did work to get better, and that I would listen to the tapes and they were cassette tapes back then and, reading books and I've kind of never stopped doing that. Now I just listen to more podcasts than books because it's just easier. I haven't adopted the Kindle. My wife got a Kindle for Christmas, and she's like reading like a book a week, it just seems like so much to me. But I listen to podcasts all the time. So
you're in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, I think that was sort of, I'd say Gable was probably an inspiration for me early on.
.com. Elizabeth Walker presents the Power of Laughter Masterclass with Clayton Fletcher. Learn from an international professional stand-up comedian what all business people should know. What do comedians do on stage every night? How do we read the room? How do we learn what our audience is connecting with us around? And how can you learn how to do that in your everyday conversations build rapport with your customers and employees. For executives and team leaders who speak, if you are in the Roanoke Valley or surrounding area, October 18th starts at 11 a.m. You can reserve your seats right now at the Jefferson Center box office. Pick up your copy of The ROI of LOL. That's the book that Clayton's workshop is centered around. So the co-author is Steve Cody. You can find both Clayton Fletcher and Steve Cody on LinkedIn. So my name's Elizabeth Walker, host and producer of the Dear Business Coach podcast and Walker Consulting workshops. Please join me on October 18th and contact me now. I can help you reserve your seat or at the box office at the Jefferson Center in Roanoke, Virginia. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's a different version. There's a lot of different ways to say what it sounds like Dan Gable's message to you was, or to his audience was, in preparation. It kind of reminds me of what is the saying that goes, right. It's practice, 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 invest, 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 and then you get lucky or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. When I say to folks, it takes 20 years to become an overnight success, right? I mean, no one sees all the hard work that you're doing, right?
Well, so I'm going to ask you about how you. So first of all, when I was preparing for this interview, I was going to ask you about how you approach your team, right? Because you do have a personal interest in developing your team members and a passion for the culture around a team member that comes into your group or your organization. I feel like is going to get from the very beginning that you are the leader that I can work for, who recognizes that I am not going to be in your team forever. And that's we're growing together as professionals, as you say, right? As individuals, no matter where our paths may go after our time together. And I'm personally very attracted to leaders like yourself because, that is a reality that we will have different paths, career paths throughout our lifetime. And so optimizing yourself for the quality of your relationship for yourself as a leader and for that person who has a chance to work with you. That makes you a very different you're not a manager, right? You are not just a person who recruited me, for example, if I'm coming into your team. That gives you a different kind of influence on your team. And it sounds like you want to be, because it sounds like you've found some things that work for you, but also kind of a way of personal growth, right? Like you said, it's maybe the whole point is not to go home and try to read a bunch of books. Maybe that's not exactly the best the best path, right? So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Yeah. I know that you are an author. I know that you have published a book, and I want you to talk about that. And you are that I just learned teaching a class at VCU. So how did this happen? Tell me about this.
Sure. So I could probably do my best to touch on all that. So again, I bring folks into the organization. I do know that, some of aspirations to do other things, and that's okay. Some tell me early on, some don't. And a lot of pretty much all of our reps that come in, I have other managers. And so they may tell me this, or they may tell their manager this, or not at all. But I think my job is to make sure that, again, working with their leaders, the best version of themselves while they're here that they possibly can be. And I know some or many move on, I guess. But even still to this day, I have reps that will reach out to me and say, oh, hey, they may not have worked for me for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and they're some 10 years. And it'd be like, hey, I'm looking at this job. What do you think? Or, oh my gosh, you did this comp plan. Let's see where I can poke holes. We can poke holes in it. Or I've had reps that have started their own businesses and been like, hey, I'm hiring our first sales rep. Can you help me put together a comp plan? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because I do genuinely care about these people, and I have some folks that stay with me since, for a long time. And so I look at it as just developing a relationship. Like, these are people, and not that, I'm still responsible for their number or their well-being or that kind of stuff. But I still feel like I have a vested interest because there's so many reps, and I don't know if I can count them, that I got them started on their sales path, and they're still doing it today. So I feel a sense of responsibility there. Um, you know, funny with the I'll talk about I guess the book first. I I have one here. I may have one here. It's the book itself is it's not super fancy. It's a paperback. But my thinking kind of was that I want to make a picture book about selling, and my thinking kind of is that and maybe I'm not a super big reader, so I want to make it with someone sit there, read, maybe learn the basics of sales, and so this is the ABC of professional selling, and so it's got some rhymes in it, and I think as folks get an understanding, and then say, oh wow, this part about prospecting, let me go research that and say, oh, this is kind of interesting, overcoming objections. Let me go look at that, because I figure if you have the tools and the maybe a blip of it, that they'll go and look and elsewhere for it. Because while I've been doing this for a long time, there's so many more people that know so much more and can maybe articulate it better than me. So if I can give folks maybe a little nugget of it, make it appealing, make it look attractive with pictures or whatever, and say, well, that's pretty cool. All right, let me go now and let me research and find out more. And that was sort of my reason for kind of doing this. And as I talk to so many new folks and interns and things like that, I figure, hey, here's like a little guideline for you on how to be successful in sales. So that's the book that's available on Amazon. It's put it here, the ABC
of professional sales.
So there you go. So yeah, cool. So it's that. So what's funny is with one of my former reps, she was going for, well, she still is, I think, going for a master's at Virginia Commonwealth University, and they have a sales program there, and they have a team that they which is, when I was in school, we didn't have this, and I don't know if when I was in school I would have done it, because I kind of became a salesperson, but didn't aspire to be it. But they have a sales team that goes to other colleges, and they compete in mock sales interviews, kind of like a debate club, sort of. And she had asked me, she's like, hey, you know what? They do this thing, and I know that you're into this kind of stuff. Would you want to help coach? And so yeah, so I went and I coached and I volunteered a little bit, and she had said, hey, I told the guy who's kind of running the program that you'd be interested in teaching, and I'm like, well, she's like, would you do that? I'm like, yeah, I probably would, And then so anyway, I didn't think anything of it, and then I got an email probably about 3-4 months later, like, hey, are you interested in doing this? And I said, yeah, let me take a look. And then, which is probably not great. I looked at it. I said, oh, yeah, sure, let me go online. And what I have to do? Like, I have to apply and stuff. So I went online. There was all this. It was a lot of stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm qualified for this. And so I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I didn't apply. And so then they reached out to me like, hey, I thought you were going to do this. I'm like, well, I don't have a doctorate. I don't have a master's. I don't have. There's so much stuff you're asking for that I just don't have. I'm like, yeah, but you've been doing it for 100 years, at least 25. And I'm like, yeah, like you could do it. So I'm like, all right. So they had to give me like a little bit of a pep talk to do it. So I'm like, all right, fine. So to make sure so this is my first semester. I'm going to be doing it here in August 20th. It's what's the class called? The Art of Persuading. It's called the Art of Persuasion is the class that I'm doing. Professional selling, the Art of Persuasion. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be a difference, but I've been doing a very similar course for my team for the last 20 years. So I just kind of took that, tweaked it a little bit, made it a little bit longer, added a little more writing and papers, and I added a couple quizzes that, because we would always have like a final. So some speeches. So my daughters were who just graduated. One of them just graduated from VCU actually, and she was telling me, she's like, "This is a 300 level course. You have to make this. You have to add a quiz here, and you have to add a paper there, or whatever." So I promise any of the students that are listening, it's not going to be too hard, but I think it'll be fun, and and I usually get good feedback on it. And the one thing that I do guarantee folks, at least when I teach it in the companies I work for, is that when they're done, they're going to know how to sell. And and it's like anything else, it's like what you put into it's what you get out of it. And so if reps that pass the exam and they memorize everything, and that's great. I always say in the class, you memorize all your work and you know it all, that's going to get your name on a certificate, and there you go. But if you take the information, you internalize it, make it your own, you're going to, make a commission check, and that's what you want, And um, so that's what they'll guarantee. Folks that take the course will guarantee, I guarantee they'll know how to sell. Now, whether they use it, that's up to them. But,
Well, that's enticing, and I have to reflect on some of the words that are coming up with something you said in the title of the class, or the not the title, but the title of the class. You said earlier that you like to make sure that folks that work with you get introduced to being successful in their craft, the word craft. And then in the title of this class at VCU, we have professional selling, the art of persuasion. And so people who are in arts, right, especially performing arts, use the word craft.
sure.
And so I'm pulling these two things together from different areas of the interview, but I can't help it. It's because the art of persuasion for some people can be like, okay, this is this is how we say it to sound like fun and enticing, but it can also sound like the art of persuasion. How do I learn to be a trickster, right? What's the craft to be? Right. So I can tell from the content in your book, The ABCs of Professional Selling, one of the first things, this is the second or third time I've heard you say this too, is you're digging into what is a referral? How does that work? How do we talk to people? So when I hear you say the art of persuasion, when I hear that from the class title, and I hear you talk about the craft of your craft as a professional, I'm looking to Tom Whalen to tell me how to build relationships. That's just because I have some background in sales. But maybe you can help me put the right words to this for people who would like to think about selling as an art form or a craft that you can study. Is there some validity to that?
Yeah, agreed. I think a lot of times, yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I was thrilled with the title of it, but that's the title of the course. This is what we need. So, because
well, I like it.
Yeah, well, the persuasion kind of can have a negative connotation, like you're talking about. But if we think about just how I think about myself, or just people in general, people have a tough time making a decision on anything. I don't care what it is. Because nobody wants to make a bad decision. That's the reality of it. And so I look at like persuading, in the sales sense, as helping folks make the decision that they want to make. Now, whether that's going with me and buying my product or whatever as I'm selling, or or something that's good for them, but something that's maybe somebody else that's better for them, I should say. So I think it's helping them make that decision, because a lot of times, and this happens all the time, and I say this to our reps a lot, is you'll get that opportunity. Someone's like, oh, hey, I got to do this, this quote, this bid, this whatever. The date is, find out the date for it, because if the date's oh, it's 6 months away or whatever, and you need to help them get to that, have that everything that they need by the time they need that solution implementation, whatever that is, because as people, right? Yes, people have a hard time making decisions. And then the number two, or it's probably number one, but I'll use it for number two. Is the number one. The one thing that folks have, I say an inherent thing, is to procrastinate. And so it's helping folks get the information that they need now, and then help them get that decision. Because I'll tell you, if it was up to me, like I just talk about, as I took this course, right, or applying for this course, I was like, man, this is a lot of work. I don't know if I'm qualified. I don't know if I want to do this. It's a man. And then it wasn't until the guy's name was Bruce that called me and goes, Tom, listen, you could do this. And he called me. I was like, if he didn't call me, I probably wouldn't have done it. So he gave me at the time, let's put a call together. And I was like, well, okay, but I don't have my master's, I don't have my MBA or any of that. He goes, yeah, but you're doing it a long time. You've had success for some pretty big companies. I'm like, he's like selling me on it, right? And which is good, and I appreciate that. And I'm grateful that he did. So I look at that as a situation. He helped me make a decision that I really wanted to make. I just needed, maybe someone to help me get there, and that's what he did. And so when I look at persuasion, I think that's the roadmap. How do we help you get there? And again, at the end of the day, I want you to go with me, and I want you to buy our stuff. And by the way, take 2 truckloads of it. That's great. However, if that's not the the solution that's best for you, I understand that, and we'll try again some other time. That's okay. But like, I think having that vested interest in your customer, your prospect, or whomever it is that you're speaking to, is important. If you're looking at it from like, how can you put yourself in their shoes? How can I help you get to where you need to get to? Let me do that for you. Then that's I guess the persuasion that the way I see it, at least. Not like, hey, let me sell you something you don't need, because that doesn't. And I honestly believe that you really can't sell someone that they're not interested in. I mean, there's, maybe if it's a $2 toothbrush or something, maybe, but like not a house or a car or or anything that's a significant purchase, or investment.
Today, we want to tell you about a friend of the Dear Business Coach podcast. If you're thinking about renovating your home or business, check out our friends at Active Wall. Located in Martinsville, Virginia, Active Wall produces high-quality moving, window, wall, and door systems that open up your space. Their innovative product lines include folding units, pivot doors, and gas strut windows that are custom designed to add style, function, and wow factor to residential and commercial settings. Energy efficient, thermally broken aluminum and proprietary hardware are at the core of Active Wall's design process. Their skilled team collaborates closely with architects, designers, and homeowners across the nation to ensure that the aesthetic and functional needs of the end customer are met. The products are made in the USA and they ship nationwide. Active Wall has a showroom and design center in Martinsville that is open by appointment, so you can see and feel the quality of their craftsmanship. As a special for listeners of the Dear Business Coach podcast, you can use the promotional code Elizabeth for 5% off your order. Visit activewall.com/Elizabeth for more information and a free quote. Thank you to Active Wall of Martinsville, Virginia, for being a friend of the Dear Business Coach podcast. Visit activewall.com/Elizabeth to discover how Active Wall can open up your space.
I'm really glad that you said that. Help someone make decision that they really want to need, that they need to make. Help me get there. Help me. I want to make this decision. I just feel like maybe I don't have the tools or the information, and so you get to be my friend and my partner in help me find the decision I need to make, and that's a really nice feeling, and also it makes me feel okay. Well, I can come back to you next time I need another solution.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's why I get some of my old reps coming back to me a lot of times, because I try to, I don't say to them, hey, when you go, you leave, come back to me for the next 20 years. But I think they feel comfortable because, hey, we work together, we've done good things. And you know what, if you're at someplace else and you have questions or whatever, yeah, I'll be happy to help you out if I can. So.
Well, and so now so the book that ABCs of Professional Selling, I can purchase that on Amazon. And in your LinkedIn profile, there's a link to purchase that. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. There's an author site there. And the book is on there. And then I have an intention of doing another one, but now that I'm doing this course, we'll see. It may take a little longer than I intended. Although the book, it's not super thick. But it did take me close to 3 years to do it now. Again, because I'm working a full-time job and all of that. But now that I got the process down, because folks are like, oh, self-publishing a book, it's easy. Amazon does an awesome job with that kind of stuff, but there's a format and there's a lot of rules around it, and if I use a lot of stock pictures and photographs that I took, but you have to have certain resolutions and all that stuff, and it also all rhymes too. So that was a bit. I took a lot of poetry courses in college, and I think I got maybe some poet back in me, so I kind of made sales poetry. So I don't know, maybe the only book out there that has sales poetry in it. So
Well, now that is unique. I like it. That's good. Don't we need some of that?
I think so. I think so.
So if I want to get in touch with Tom, I know how to buy your book by finding your linked on your LinkedIn profile. And I mean, is that in general the best way to get in touch with you? Can I start a conversation with you by finding you on LinkedIn?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Just the in-mail that's on there. That's usually when I talk to folks, yeah, that's what I do. And I do respond to it. Um, so yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, before I let you go, because I'm not exactly sure how long I've kept you here, what is one more thing that you would like our listeners to know about what does Tom Whalen say about building a profession in sales? Is there something, since you do have an expert background in helping people who are at the beginning of building their career and establishing a growth mindset, what's one or two pieces of advice as far as starting the foundation of that growth mindset?
No, that's good. I appreciate that. So we just had well, probably 2 weeks ago, 3 of our interns from last year returned to full-time jobs, and they're in sales. This is their first sales job, and I had asked them, and I said, hey, your parents think it's weird that you're in sales? Because a lot of times, again, sales has a negative connotation. And the overarching thing was like, well, not really. My parents are just glad I have a job. And so, which is great. And so what I had said to them is, hey, listen, um, as long as you're willing to put the time in and work and do and follow the what we say and how we show you, you're going to be very successful. We're going to show you how to do it, and then you just follow and you'll be fine. And then by the time you kind of get it all down, you're going to learn and go into great places. So I will say this: it's okay it's okay not to be an expert. It's okay to try something new. If you're getting instruction, the person giving you instruction probably knows it well. It's okay to follow the instructions and do it. It'll be okay. So trying something new and being not afraid to try something new. I mean, that's the reality. And to take instruction. That's anything that I've ever been successful at the beginning, I didn't know anything. And the person training me, I was like, okay, well, I don't know anything, but I trust that you know what you're doing. So I'll do what you're doing. And it ends up working, 9 times out of 10, probably 9.8 times out of 10, it works. So I would say, it's okay to try something new, and it's okay to take instruction,
It's okay to try something new, and it's okay to take instruction. Those are two good things to put together in one phrase. I like this. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay. Well, I think that's time for us, Tom, but I really appreciate you being here. And I know we'll get to talk again soon. And I hope you're enjoying your summer, and we'll look out for you. We'll look out for your next book.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you, Tom. Have a great day.
You too.
Where are we on? Okay, let's see.
Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Elizabeth in Floyd, Virginia. This has been an episode of Dear Business Coach.